Big bore rifles are some of the most powerful hunting and sporting firearms in the world, but very few people truly understand the discipline behind them. Today, I'm joined by the chairman of the Big Bore Association of South Africa, Stephen Swart, to explain to us what big bore shooting actually is, who BASA is, and how ordinary shooters can get involved in this unique sporting discipline. Stephen, good morning and welcome.
Morning, Rian. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great privilege and an honor. I have to say I really enjoy some of your videos. So yeah, it's great to be here with you.
I appreciate that, and I do appreciate your time.
100%.
Stephen, if someone hears this term big bore rifle shooting for the first time, or maybe it's someone who's been shooting for a while and he's heard about it, but doesn't really understand exactly what it entails, what makes big bore rifle shooting different from your more conventional rifle shooting?
Yes, Rian, it's a good question. So when you think of a big bore rifle, I think lately the last few years, big bore rifles tended to become anything larger than a 30 caliber, like a 308 or a 30-06, mainly due to most people and the popularity of flat shooting cartridges. But what big bore really is, and what it for us as an association or a club, the Big Bore Association of Southern Africa, what it entails for us is more your traditional dangerous game hunting calibers and cartridges. So for us, it is anything larger than a 9.3. Legislation in some provinces and countries outside of South Africa require a 375, but we've opened it up a bit to the 9.3 by caliber and all the cartridges that fall within that. So in short, big bore shooting or BASA, what our club does or our association does, it is for the guys that really like to shoot those really big calibers. Those calibers that are used in dangerous game shooting, whether it's a PH, whether it's your field guides that go out on nature trails, and people who really enjoy big rifle calibers. We've got a saying at our club: we're all addicted to recoil, and these are the rifles that really do recoil quite a bit. So,
If I want to get started, what would you say is the smartest entry point for me? Gear, caliber, choice, the kind of rifle I should realistically consider without overcommitting?
Rian, that's a good question, and I want to from the start or from the bat, as they say in English. There's these preconceptions that if you want to do big bore shooting, you need a big bore rifle. That is true. You can't go on a dangerous game hunt with well, I guess you can with a 223 or a 308, but it's frowned upon. It's not in terms of the legislation, etc. But for us at BASA, myself, I've got my own kids. They start off with .22s. We've got a big drive towards children, and the entire shoot stands still whenever there's a child shooting, whether it's with the start of whether they start with a .22 or whether it's a 308 or a 6.5 by 55 or whatever it may be. So the entry starts with children and even adults. We've got a lot of members that enjoy the type of shooting that we present, and they come with their normal traditional hunting rifle. Yes, the majority of people do own big bores, 9.3 and bigger. The majority of them own 375. But you can literally come to one of our shoots with your 308 and you will have a really enjoyable time. You'll learn the basics of rifle handling. You'll learn the basics of how to aim. And more importantly, you'll be surrounded by people that really do care for shooting, that care for camaraderie between friends and people. And yeah, that's basically where it starts. Now, to your question or your second question, it's a wide question. What is the the entry point, I would say, or like I mentioned, it would be any rifle, starting from your .22. But if you really start enjoying the type of shoots and you want to become and you want to enter into the big bore realm, there's some of the people who will probably watch this video and they'll probably disagree, or they'll come back to it at the next shoot and say, how could you say that? But I would probably say it would be something like a 9.3 or 375. Those are traditionally your most all-round calibers, and all the cartridges that's within it, your 375 H&H or Ruger. So that is the most common, let's call it big bore. Within our club or our association, we call it the small bores. So we've got different categories. So people, I remember my one friend, actually he's my brother-in-law. He came there and he thought he had a big rifle with his 375, and he came to one of our shoots and he had the smallest caliber between everyone that was around him. So a 375 is a very good entry point, especially if you want to start hunting, and that's what it's all about for us. It's you need to learn your rifle in a stressed scenario for when you want to go and hunt. And it's not we concentrate on specifically dangerous game hunting, and like most of your videos for self-defense is you need to practice this stuff. You don't need to practice it with us. By no means. You can go to any other shooting association. You can do it on your own. You can do your own drills. You can do your own shooting. What we just do is we get PHs, field guides. We've got veterinarians, all these guys that come together and they sit and they show us where are the vitals of these dangerous game animals. And by them I mean the big 7 or the big 6, including hippos and crocodiles and all those exotic type of animals that people wish and dream they could one day go and hunt. And it's important to understand that when you use this type of rifle, it's not a simple rifle like a 308. Not that I'm saying it's a 308 is a simple rifle. Well, I guess that is what I said. But a 375 and bigger, it's got a lot of recoil, and you need to understand how to use the rifle. It's not just you pick it up and you shoot it. Eventually, you get there through practice, and that's what you want to do when you go out and you hunt your buffalo. You want to know that you are proficient and that your rifle is proficient, and you understand your rifle.
Yeah, that's crucial, especially if a big buffalo decides it's coming for you.
Yes.
Let's talk some structure. CHASA. Firstly, if you can explain to the viewers what CHASA is, then who are they and what role do they play in this space? Are there specific clubs or associations that a newcomer can join to get some proper guidance or access to ranges?
Sure, thanks, Rian. Yes, so BASA, we are a club or an association by ourselves. Like I've probably mentioned, and you probably heard, we've got a big love for big game rifles, big game hunting, the conservation and utilization of these type of huntings and type of hunting and rifle, sorry. And what we realized is that there's a bunch of other associations with the same views. And that's where CHASA is a confederation of hunting associations of South Africa. That's the acronym CHASA. And they also stand for sustainable use, sustainable hunting, the freedom to hunt. Okay. So what has happened is a bunch of hunting associations across South Africa, and this was even before BASA was formed. So BASA is now 25 years this year, and CHASA is older than that. So they started off 40 years ago with all of these hunting associations across South Africa joining together, sharing the common belief and the common viewpoint that hunting should be protected, your firearm rights should be protected. So CHASA is not a hunting organization like a BASA or a Kaapjag or a simple association. They are a confederation of various associations where they come together and they share insights into what is happening in the hunting and firearm industry.
Okay.
And collectively, all these associations, they collectively come into CHASA, and then they, let's use the word, fight for your firearm rights, fight for your hunting rights. And yeah, that's what CHASA is all about. Now, when you join BASA, you automatically become a member of CHASA. So we are part of CHASA together with, I think it's now 17 or 18 other associations. And CHASA then also ascribes to various other associations across South Africa. There's one called SUCO SA, the Sustainable Use Coalition of South Africa. And within the SUCO family, you've got CHASA, you've got NatShoot, you've got your South African Predator Association, you've got a Parrot Association, you've got the True Green Alliance, and it's all these organizations coming together, whether it's a hunting organization or whether it's a conservation organization or whether it's a firearms rights organization. They're all coming together now for a bigger part, where they use and fight for your utilization of wildlife products across the globe. So then SUCO, together with our national government, they go and fight for your legislation, and that then goes all the way to your COP conferences, or what we probably know as the CITE conferences, where they fight for your rights of certain animals to be removed or put onto the protected animal list, so that eventually, and Wildlife Ranchers, WRSA, is also part of the SUCO family, so that your hunters, your firearm users, they can actually use their rifles, use their farms, use the animals to make a living and do it in an ethical way. Okay. So in short, BASA is a small club, but we're part of CHASA across South Africa, and CHASA, together with all the other bigger organizations, are across the globe. So you become part of a big family that has impact all across the globe, literally.
So if I want to join in the sport and in the discipline, how do I go about it? Where do I find my nearest clubs, etc.?
Yes, yeah, Rian. So with BASA, we are predominantly situated in Pretoria. Most of our members are from the surrounding areas. We do have shoots in KZN and in Limpopo province. So if for someone that wants to do big bore shooting, they can come to any one of our shoots, or they can go to any other association in their area. We try and take hands with other associations, share our knowledge with them. But if you want to join BASA, it will be probably in Pretoria. And like I said in the beginning, you can literally just arrive there with your standard hunting rifle. You don't need to have a big bore straight from the start. You can do it with literally any rifle, and you can come and join us. And it's maybe something that the viewers would not know is so. And to explain what is a BASA shoot. So like I mentioned, it's a shoot where we practice real life hunting scenarios on and predominantly dangerous game. So we are not the guys that shoot distance. Our shoots are mostly, it's literally from 5 meters to 50 meters. Sometimes we do 100-meter shoot, or to put a target at 100 meter. And that is the thing that people really enjoy, and that makes it open to specifically the children, is you get to the shooting range, or at the stage that we call it, or the hunting scenario, and you can see a buffalo target that's almost life size, or a leopard or a lion, and it's not a silhouette, it's a real photo of a real leopard and a real lion. So you're shooting at something, and you're getting the muscle memory, and it's at a close quarter. We've got charging animals, whether it's a buffalo, hippo, rhino, whatever we put on the target, and that thing comes at quite a substantial speed. It's not the real speed of the animal, of course, that's impossible, but you get a charging animal, and that brings out a lot of adrenaline for the people. And because it's so close, it makes it a bit easier and more enjoyable for someone. I started this the distance shooting a year or two ago with my neighbor. He does the .22 shooting, and I enjoy it, and it brings out the whole different knowledge of what rifles and shooting is, and I do appreciate that. But what I enjoy about the Bazaar side is you're up close and personal. The children or the newcomers, they can see the target, they can walk to the target, they can immediately see where was their miss. Even though it's not in the score area, they can see, well, this would have killed the animal, and that's what gives them confidence, and that's what teaches them how to use their rifle in a hunting environment.
And needless to say, when we talk about children shooting, it's always under very close supervision, direct supervision.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
No, so the dad, or in my case, I'm always right next to the kid.
yes.
So no, definitely, we don't have kids running around with rifles.
Stephen, I think what's really going on here is that you're just addicted to the recoil. That's what I think.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
On the practical side of this, what should shooters understand about things like ammunition, recoil management, talking about that, cost per shot, and then obviously there are some physical and mental demands when you shoot rifles of this caliber. Where do that come into play, and what do you need to manage?
Yes, Rian, yeah. So you mentioned the recoil part, and that is the first thing that people, if they come to one of our shoots and they've got a new rifle, they've let's create a scenario. You've got Johan that wants to hunt a buffalo, and he has gone out and he's bought himself a 375 or a 416. He's never really shot it before. So what happens is this guy, normally they would go and they would buy a packet of bullets, and they would go to their hunting range or shooting range or the hunting farm, and they would take it out of the box and shoot their first shot at it and try to zero the scope. Whether they shoot with let's assume they shoot with a scope, and then that recoil will really bother them. You'll see a lot of people then immediately selling those rifles, or they use it for one hunt, and then sell it because they're not used to it, and it is a barrier to entry into the, let's call it, the sport or the type of hunt. There are various others that I'll remember now, but the recoil is a substantial part of it, and that's what we try and do. We try and teach the people, listen, this is how you manage your recoil. Hold the rifle in this way. We don't do shoots where you sit behind a bench and shoot the rifle. Then you're going to get hurt, whether it's through the recoil. If you've got a scope, you're going to get a half moon. So we try and learn the people, or teach the people, this is how you shoot a rifle that does have substantial recoil. This is how you prevent yourself from being injured. This is how you use it in a hunting and in a shooting environment. So it is important to know that. And if you buy a rifle and you're going to go on your first buffalo hunt, 99% of the people will be fine, and they'll manage it to somewhat, but then they'll put the rifle in the safe and maybe use it once or twice again. Where we advocate the use of it on any type of hunt. So there's nothing more thrilling than to walk out with your big bore rifle in a hunting or on a hunting farm and trying to get really close to an animal, be it a warthog or an impala, and then hunt it with your 375 or 458. There's another misconception that people think that you can't use your hunting rifle or your big bore rifle for normal hunts. It's going to damage the animal. Quite to the contrary. It's your fast calibers that really do the damage. Something like a 300 Win Mag or your PRCs lately, but a 458 or a 416 on a impala or a warthog or whatever, it's going to be one hole in, one hole out. Okay. And you're going to get the joy of duplicating a safari type big bore or a dangerous game hunt. Then you've addressed the other one is costs. So yes, big bore shooting is expensive. The ammunition part of it. So that is one of the barriers to entry. The rifles, not as much. I'm laughing because you can buy a double for 3, 4, 500, even R1,000,000 these days.
Jeez.
Those are very expensive. But if you want to get your first big bore rifle, let's for argument's sake say it's going to be a 375. You can get a Zastava, you can get a CZ, you can get a Winchester from about 25, 30,000 Rand, and you can use it as it is. You don't need to have a scope, you don't need to have a red dot, you can use it open sight at our shoots, because that is the way that it was designed for. And that is the way that people traditionally used it. So and that's the way that a lot of people still use it. They use it open sight. You can put a scope on these big bore rifles. People think you can't. Yes, you can. If you can manage the recoil. We've got people with 450 Rigby's having scopes on it, and they use it as a normal hunting rifle. I just haven't seen them shoot it on a bench. I think that would be a bit risky, but that's to them. They traditionally they would stand with shooting sticks and shooting the rifle. The mental aspect, I think I've already touched on it at the beginning of the question, but like I mentioned, is if you go on a hunt and someone props a big bore rifle in your hand, you are going to be, most people I've experienced are afraid to shoot it because of the recoil. And if you start off small from your .22 and you go upwards, you will get used to the recoil. And I guarantee you, anyone who has started shooting big bore rifles and have learned how to manage recoil, they really do get addicted to it. And if you start off with a 375, it's not going to be too long. You'll want something bigger, and you'll get something bigger.
That sounds like one of those fishing stories. It was this big, but it came off the hook. I assume, talking about costs, I assume most guys who are involved or who become involved in this also become involved in the realm of reloading themselves before long because of the costs.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. So I would say almost all people that shoot big bores regularly, they do reload themselves. I went to a shop. I won't name the shop. I don't know if they're affiliated or sponsored on your channel. So I went to a shop the other day, and it is very expensive to buy it off the rack. 416 ammunition for 5,000 Rand. Then it does get expensive. Then you can't do the sport. So most people do reload, and it's interesting from the reloading field. You'll get the guys that really chase accuracy. We don't chase accuracy. We don't chase groupings of 10, 12 millimeters. We chase reliability. For when you go out on the hunt, you know that your rifle will shoot, the bullet will go out, and it will kill the animal. And what's interesting is from the Baza family, due to the amount of reloading, a lot of businesses have grown. I'm now just going to call it. You can probably edit it out if you want to, but you get businesses like Rhino Bullets, these days Spoor Bullet Company, Impala Bullets. We've got a new guy. He's launching soon. There's a bunch of people that do all these reloading, and they create the bullet itself. Due to the costs and the market requiring it. So it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting place to be in, to rub shoulders with these type of individuals and to see what's going out in the market and where they are heading into the reloading.
So they've actually started their own businesses as a result of this demand.
Yes, yeah. From the love of shooting, you've got a lot of people that started their businesses. Yeah,
I like that. That always works for me. Last question for those who want to take it further. What does the competitive side of big bore shooting look like? What different formats do you have? How do you progress through it? You know, are there sort of ranks, or is it just a competition? What do you compete in? What separates your casual shooter from someone performing at a higher level?
Yes, Rian, yeah. So I'll start off and say again, we are more uh, what's the correct term to use? Our main aim is to make shooters proficient in their shooting ability and understanding their rifle. But whenever you put in a bunch of guys at a sport or an event or something, there would always be a competitive edge. So we do have a competitive edge, and we do have a competition within our shoots, but it's not something that we take very seriously. Yes, within the club we take it seriously, but we don't take it seriously externally and uh, drive around the country and do these shoots and try to get SA colors or accredited and stuff. So how the shoots work is traditionally on a day you would come, you would shoot 20 to 25 shots. It sounds like it's not a lot, but after 20 shots with a 458 Express or something,
Whew,
you will feel it on your shoulder.
that's a workout.
So yes, so the competition side, or how the shoot works, is we normally have we've got 3 different ranges, and you need to cater for a wide variety of shooters with their rifles. So you've got guys that shoot with single shots or your breakneck type of rifle, something like a Ruger. Then you get all the guys that shoot their doubles, so they can shoot very quickly 2 shots. And then you get your normal magazine fit rifles, and they are again not fast on their second shot, but they're fast on their third and their fourth shot. So we mix it up. We try and create the shoots that in all 3 or 4 or 5 ranges, depending on how long the day is. Normally it's just 3 ranges. Each range has got a specific focus on one of those. So you'll have a buffalo range where you start off and you shoot 2 shots on a buffalo. You run to the next point, you reload, and you load, and then you shoot 3 shots from that position. Then how the competition works is it's quite scientific, in the sense that a person shooting a 375 does not have the recoil like someone that's shooting a 450 Rigby, for example, or a 460 Weatherby. Those are well known as real recoil monsters. So what we've done is we've created, if you go and read a bunch of these guys' books that write about all the big balls, you'll read about energy and velocity. So we've created and adjusted a certain scoring based on that. So it works on speed together with the time that you take, or the time and the speed is the same thing, that the time that you take on a range with the amount of hits. So if you've got on a day, you've shot 20 hits with your 375 and your total time for the day was 3 minutes. And a guy that comes with a 450 Rigby, for example, and he also shoots 20 shots or 20 hits on the day, also in 3 minutes, that guy, through common sense, has done a bit better than the guy with the 375. That guy has he received a lot more recoil, but he managed to handle his recoil better than the guy with the 375, because the 375 will only recoil a small bit. The other one will recoil much more. So the fact that he used the same amount of time, that clearly shows that he was the better shot. But that's really going into the nitty gritty of it. So yes, there is a competition based to it, and then this competition runs throughout the year, and then you get your top 10 for the year, your top junior, your top lady, top veteran, top double. We've now made it. We've creating top caliber type of prizes. Most improved shot. So people that has come in last year, they came 80th within the club, and this year they've 30th. They've really improved throughout the year, so they would get the most improved shot. But yeah, that now sounds like we just run a competition. It's not. It's more duplicating hunting scenarios. And that's what makes it different than all the other hunting associations and shooting clubs. If you get certain of these hunting clubs, you know that if you go on Saturday, you are going to shoot a springbok at 200 meters, and that is what the target will look like. You know that is it. Then you get your PRS or your NRL. They differ quite a lot, and you're shooting from different props at gongs at different ranges. Some people enjoy the variety. With us, it's also variety. You don't know what you're going to get on the day. You know you're going to get a buffalo or a lion or a leopard, but at what range, how the sequence will work, you just don't know. And that's exactly the reason why we do it, because when you're in the hunting field, you don't know what you're going to get. How it's going to stand. Is it going to be broad? So you're never going to get a perfect broadside shot on a buffalo. You might get it quartering to or straight in front, and you need to practice those scenarios.
Okay. Well, a big thanks to Steven Swart from the Big Boar Association of South Africa for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please ensure that you click the like button, subscribe to the channel, smash that bell icon so you can get notifications of new videos coming out, and very important, share this video with anybody who you know who loves shooting, rifles, and the South African firearm culture in general. As always, if you're interested in any of the training offered under the Lone Operator and Fortis Proactive Defense Solutions, there is a link in the description below the video. Check it out. We look forward to seeing you on a range one of these days. Steven, thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Rian. Appreciate it.